There are a series of very high-level goals in the transport strategy that read across to the London Plan and the Economic Development Plan as well. The first is around supporting economic development and population growth. There is a major growth challenge in London set out in the London Plan. By 2031, the population is forecast to grow by an extra 1.3 million people in London from where we are today. Huge challenge, and what we have to do is to understand what that means for transport. To enhance the quality of life for Londoners, improve safety and security, improve transport opportunities for all, reduce transport's contribution to climate change and improve its resilience. The resilience point is important, particularly when you think about temperature change, extreme weather conditions, whether it's snow, flooding, etc. And finally, to support delivery of London 2012 and its legacy. Now that's important not only in terms of the fixed infrastructure that's delivered for the Olympics, of which there are many aspects to it, particularly around Stratford and the East End, but looking at how we can use the Olympics to change people's behaviour and their perceptions of how they travel. One of the key events that led to an uptake in cycling was London was the Tour de France coming to London. That had a huge effect on people's perceptions of cycling and led to a major increase in cycling. So we're looking to use the Olympics to drive that forward again, to try and introduce cycling to a group of people that don't necessarily cycle at the moment. There are three broad aspects to policies in the Mayor's transport strategy. The first mentioned already, which is better coordination and integration of planning. The second is around providing further transport capacity. We do need to add more capacity over the next 20 years. That growth challenge, that extra 1.3 million people, extra 700,000 jobs creates real issues for us, but also to manage the demand for transport. We have some challenges around the environment and congestion in particular. It's interesting, in London, road traffic congestion is actually falling in the central area. Outside the central area, it's getting worse. London as a whole has a reduction in car use in terms of a percentage compared to all transport modes, and that contrasts sharply to what's happening outside London, where since 2000 there's been a 9% increase in usage of the car. But what we have, when we forecast to 2031 and we look at that population growth and employment growth, we do have worsening traffic congestion across London. What that plot shows there is the black areas and the deep red where congestion is at its worst. The top one shows sort of today, the bottom one 2031. So you can see that there's a spreading out effect of that road traffic congestion from the central and inner areas to parts of outer London. And what the transport strategy does is to set out measures about how we reduce that growth in congestion, including a modal shift to public transport, all the public transport investment that's going in, not just Crossrail, which is significant, 10% across the public transport network as a whole, all the capacity that's going into the underground network with the line upgrades, the new signalling system that gives us more frequent trains, all the capacity that's going into the national rail network with longer trains coming into those London terminals, capacity on DLR, Tramlink, etc. We want as many people as possible to shift towards using public transport where they can. Smarter travel, looking at behavioural change, looking at shifting people to walking, cycling, making more sensible choices about travel, particularly for shorter journeys, trying to reduce the use of the car for shorter journeys, encourage people where they can to walk and cycle. That's a particular issue in outer London. Better management of the road network. You may have heard the Mayor talk about his policies towards smoothing traffic, and what does that mean? Looking at how we can optimise the road network to get less congestion, to get more reliability of journey times. We have particular issues on the network at the moment where we have huge variations in journey times. The Blackwall Tunnel is one of them, where one time it can take you 20 minutes to get through, another time it can take you an hour. So looking at how we can smooth flows to give better variation to get more out of the existing network. It may also need, in isolated situations, we need more capacity as well. River crossings is a good example of that, where the Blackwall Tunnel is particularly vulnerable. We have a lot of growth taking place in East London. We have 7 or 8 incidents a week now where the Blackwall Tunnel is affected, either through a closure of more than an hour or an incident that affects traffic flow. If you project that forward with all that growth, that gets worse. So we may need to tackle some isolated hotspots. But the main flank of this approach is a major increase in cycling, as Colville said, a 400% increase in cycling over the life of the strategy. But we recognise in this document, which is a 20-year document, that we don't necessarily know how effective some of these measures are going to be. And this document does set out that we may need to use stricter measures to manage demand, including pricing. Recognises there's no timescale for doing that, it's not a short-term priority, but in a 20-year strategy we need to keep all options open.